live, right?
Yeah.
And Sue is on here?
I don't know if Sue's on there.
See Larry?
Sue, are you the 286 number, the 28?
That's us.
That's us.
That's our,
Okay. Then I don't think Sue's on. That's all right. She's not a voting member. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting, and for anybody online, if you're watching us, thank you for getting up this early and sticking with us. We'll start the meeting by opening up the public hearing.
I think we should start with open up the audit and the IDA audit.
You want to do that? Okay, we're going to start with the IDA audit and finance.
Yes,
sure. And
so the first, okay, so that should be your first packet right here.
Yeah.
The IDA audit and finance. So the first thing is approval.
Yeah. So, I guess I should ask for approval of the minutes. Am I right, Steve?
Yeah, the approval of the.
Okay, approval of the minutes.
For the September 21? March 21.
March 21.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any, nays? Okay, motion is approved.
Give me one of each of those, minute package. So, I'll give them to Jim, but it's good to me. Yeah, that. And that's the audit presentation. So now we're gonna do the 2021 audit presentation by Chris Stevens.
This one too?
Both the finance houses.
And who'll do the presentation?
Chris Stevens, one with Jim.
Chris. So we'll do the 2021, audit, and Chris will give us the information on that and lead us through it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Stevens. I am the senior audit manager with Testing Company, responsible for the audit, the IDA. And I did hand out a packet that has two documents in it. First one's called the report to the board. That's the one we'll go through first. The report to the board is a communication of the professional standards we're required to make. It just kind of summarizes the overall results of the audit, providing information the board should be aware of. It starts on page 1 under significant audit matters. Just like to highlight, make sure that you're aware that management is responsible for the financial statements. Part of the engagement we did assist in the drafting of the financial statements, but management is overall responsible for reviewing and approving those financial statements. Management is responsible for collecting appropriate accounting policies, and the accounting policies of the organization are described in Note 8 of the financial statements. There were no new accounting policies adopted in the current year, and the application of existing policies has not changed. We noted no transactions entered into by the organization that lacked authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions were reported in the proper accounting period. I'd also like to highlight the fact that all financial statements do include estimates. We'd like to highlight a few estimates here that are specifically important for the IDA. The most significant one here is mentioned estimate of the land held for development or resale. It's based on the exercise price of the land purchase option for those properties. We evaluated the key factors and assumptions related to those estimates that we do believe them to be reasonable given the circumstances. The bottom of page 1, difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We did not encounter any significant difficulties in performing the audit. The engagement went relatively smoothly. On the top of page 2, corrected or uncorrected misstatements. Other professional standards were required to communicate all likely misstatements to the management, as well as you, and let you know that the misstatements identified were corrected by management, and none of them were individually or inaccurate material with financial statements. One invoice, one adjustment that was proposed to record an invoice that came in after we received the trial balance. Relatively benign adjustment. Disagreement with management. We're happy to report that we didn't have any disagreements with management related to accounting or auditing matters. We will be having Steve sign what's called the management representation letter. Essentially, that letter states that they responded to all of our questions truthfully, honestly. They provided us all information requested, and all that information was complete and accurate. Management's consultation with other independent accountants. This essentially has to do with opinion shopping. If management had reached out to another accounting firm related to an auditing or accounting matter. That accounting firm is required to communicate with us to ensure they have all the pertinent information, and in turn, we're required to communicate that consultation to you. We're not aware of any such consultation with other outside accounting firms. Down at the bottom, other matters, under government accounting standards board requirements, there should be an additional part of the financial statements called management discussion analysis. That is not included in the financial statements. We would not audit it if it was included in them, so the fact that it's not included doesn't impact our audit, our opinion on the financial statements. There's also a supplemental schedule of supplementary information that's included in the financial statements. It's required under New York State law related to your schedule of indebtedness and your schedule of straight release from bonds. We did audit those schedules, and we will issue an opinion on them in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. There's also some other information related to the financial statements, other information or an annual report that the organization is required to submit to the New York State Authority Budget Office. We did review that report to ensure that it's materially consistent with the financial statements or our audit. And we did not identify any material inconsistencies that were required to report on. So that is the report to the board. Are there any questions related to that?
Open it up to the members. Any questions? Go to
No, he's gonna do the audit presentation, that's it.
I'll quickly go over the next section. These are the financial statements in our auditor's report.
Can I ask you one question? You actually went through all these leases?
What's that?
To schedule supplemental information, the straight leases? You went through all the leases?
We sample them.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
All right, so on page 1 of the financial statements, this is our independent auditor's report. For those who have seen an auditor's opinion before, this might look different than you used to see. And there was a new auditing standards that was adopted in the current year. We essentially redesigned the auditor's report in an attempt to make it more transparent and make it more consistent with the PCAOB and independent international auditing standards. First thing you notice is our audit opinions are actually the first thing listed on the report.
Okay.
We're fixing up color for the.
Half of page 1.
Sorry about that.
All right. So the second paragraph down communicates our opinion. It says, in our opinion, the company financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the authority as of December 31st, 2021 and 2020, and the changes in the financial position and cash flows for the years ended. That's what we call an unmodified or clean opinion. That's essentially the highest level of assurance you can get under an audit. Next paragraph down, the basis of the opinion, that just communicates to you that we performed our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and the auditing standards contained in government auditing standards that are issued by the Controller General of the United States. We are also independent related to the organization, and that we believe the information we gather as part of our audit is sufficient to support our opinion. Responsibilities of management for the financial statements. The section just discusses what management's responsibility is. So management is essentially responsible for the fair presentation of the financial statements, as well as implementing a system of material controls that allows for the fair presentation and preparation of the financial statements. Management is also responsible for, evaluating whether there's any issues related to the organization and whether there'll be any substantial doubt about its ability to continue as a going concern. Auditor's responsibility of the financial statements. This breaks down in detail what our responsibilities as auditors. Our responsibility is to plan and perform our audit that allows us to express an opinion on the financial statements. Our opinion provides reasonable assurance. Reasonable is not absolute. There's always the risk that an audit can be planned and performed in accordance with professional standards, and there still be a misstatement in the financial statements. There are So there's a list here of significant requirements we're supposed to, responsibilities, if you want to look at it, I will put it out on each one individually, but, that's what that section does provide. Required supplementary information, just highlights the fact that, management special analysis is not included in the financial statements, but however, their access does not impact our opinion on the financial statements. Supplementary information, that's, there's some information included in the financial statements that's not part of the basic financial statements in accordance with, generally accepted accounting principles. That information is presented for additional analysis. That information is really required by New York State law for, IDAs. We did test those, that information as part of our audit, and we believe the information is fairly stated in relationship to the financial statements taken as a whole. Other information, this refers to your, annual reports that are required by the New York State, Authority Budget Office under New York State Public Authority Law. We did read those reports to ensure that they're materially consistent with the financial statements and the information gathered in our audit. If there had been, we don't issue any opinion on them, however, had there been any material inconsistencies, we will report those here. And the last section refers to our Yellow Book report. I will first go with that on, when we get to the end of the, presentation. Page 4 of the financial statements, this is your statement of net position. This shows your total assets of the organization, total liabilities, and the net difference in those two amounts, which is your net position year. So at the end of 2021, you had total assets of just over $420,000, total liabilities of just over $4,600. Current liabilities of $4,600. You also had the long-term liability, which is the land purchase option. And then your net position at the year end was just under $300,000. Statement of revenues and changes in net position. This is essentially the income statement of the organization. It shows total revenue, total expenses, as well as your total net change in net position, which is essentially your income or loss, net income or loss for the year. Year over year, you see a decrease in revenue. That was mainly due to different projects. You had one project that closed at the end of 2020 that was about $98,000 of revenue. You didn't have that same level of project year over year. Economic development costs went way down year over year. That was mainly due to expenses related to the 701 River Street project from the prior year. That will eventually be recouped as part of the sale of land.
Which has actually been, to this point, recouped. I'll report on that later.
So year over year, you did have a negative change in that position, so total net loss of $140,000. Page 6 of the financial statements, this is a statement of cash flows. So this breaks down, it shows the total sources and uses of cash during the year. As net proceeds from administration fees of $127,000, payments to vendors of just under $300,000, but to a net decrease in cash year over year of about $148,000 from operating activities. The lower section of that just reconciles your net operating loss to the net change in cash used from operating activities. Starting at page 7 through page 10, this is the accounting policies in the organization. As I mentioned in the board report, there was no change in those year over year, and they are considered to be in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Note C on page 10, that just highlights some information related to the land you have held for development. That's the land that's will be sold to 701 River Street project, plus the land that's to be sold to the city for the park. Note D just provides some information related to that land purchase option. We just talked about $117,000 in payments from 701 River Street. Those will be applied to the sale of the land when the land sale goes through. And note F just provides some information related to related party transactions. Probably the most significant one for the current year is on page 12, where we discussed that Victoria did receive a loan from the CRC in exchange for a preservation bond in the same amount, $10,000, and that loan was repaid in December of 2000. Page 13. This is a separate secondary audit report that we're required to issue when we perform an audit in accordance with government auditing standards. We communicate our consideration of your internal control as part of this report. Essentially, we are required to consider your internal control to the extent that allows us to plan and perform our audit, not to the extent that allows us to issue an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. That being said, if we become aware of anything that we consider material weakness or significant deficiency, we report to those to you here in this report. And we're happy to report that we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that are reportable under government auditing standards. On the top of page 14, we're also required under government auditing standards to consider laws and regulations, compliance with laws and regulations that can have a direct and material impact on the financial statements. Communicate any non-compliance related to those laws here, and that more important, we're not aware of any violations of laws or regulations that could have a direct and material impact on the financial statements. And the last two pages, 15, 16, and 17, this is the supplementary information related to the different projects you have that supports the CRC report that will be filed separately. We did audit these, and we do believe the information here is fairly stated in relation to the financial statement. That is your audit of financial statements. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the members?
Just on page 15, the schedule of bonds and notes. Under one of the notes, it did reflect the preservation bond issued by the IDA last year to the CRC that was redeemed in the same year. Your schedule of bonds outstanding probably should track that as well, if that can be updated. It was issued and redeemed in the same year.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay, that's the only thing I thought.
Any other questions? Motion to accept?
Make the motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any notes? We're good, thank you.
And then we'll go into the CRC.
Motion to adjourn IDA,
IDA.
Have a motion?
audit plan.
Make the motion.
motion, second,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're out. CRC.
CRC audit and finance.
Okay, CRC Audit and Finance Committee. Now, we're going to, same thing, we're gonna run through the,
Approval of the minutes of March 26th.
make a motion for the, or I'll ask for a motion for the approval of the minutes of March 26th.
Make a motion.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're good. Now we're gonna go to the CRC Audit and Finance.
We're in it, so you're gonna go to the, presentation of the 2021 audit by, Chris Stevens at Wojcicki.
We're gonna do a 2021 audit presentation by Wojcicki and Company CPAs. Steve Wojcicki, is that Wojcicki?
Chris.
Chris.
Stevens.
Chris,
Morning.
we'll go through this with us. Thank you.
Okay, you do have, they gave you a packet that includes the drafts of the financial statements and the report to the board. I believe the report to the board is the last few pages of that packet, and that's what we'll go through first. A lot of the information you just heard related to IDA, so I will try to summarize this a little bit here, so we don't have to sit through that whole presentation twice.
Do we have CRC?
Yeah, why do I not have that?
That one there, CRC. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Have in there the audit and finance committee. These are drafts, okay, perfect. Sorry.
All right, so page one of the report to the board, as we mentioned before, the IDA, the management is responsible for the financial statements. The significant accounting policies of the organization are listed in note 8 of the financial statement. There were no new accounting policies adopted. The application of existing policies did not change in 2021. And all transactions entered in by the corporation were reported. I'm sorry. There were no transactions entered into the organization that lacked authoritative guidance or consensus. And all transactions appear to be recognized in the proper accounting period. Difficult is the kind of performing the audit. The ID, there's no significant difficulty in performing the audit of the CRC. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. As I mentioned before, we are required to communicate all significant misstatements to you. We did propose one adjustment related to an AP invoice that came in after we received, our trial balance. Management has corrected all of the statements, that particular statement wasn't material to the financial statement, so. Disagreements to management, we're not aware, we do not have, significant disagreements to management related to accounting or auditing matters. We have to sign a management representation letter that all information provided was complete and accurate, and they responded truthfully to all of our inquiries. We're not aware of any management consultation with an outside accounting firm related to accounting or auditing matters. Management has omitted the management discussion analysis as required by generally accepted accounting principles for government. That will not impact our opinion on the audited financial statements. We were engaged to report on the schedules and indebtedness of the organization, and we will issue an opinion on that in relation to the financial statement as a whole. And we did review the organization's. We did read the organization's annual reports required to be submitted to the Authority Budget Office. And we're not aware of any material inconsistencies from that report from the financial statements or the information gathered as part of our audit. So that is a report to the board. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions from the members? Okay.
All right, so starting on page 1 of the finance statement, which is the beginning of that packet you had. This is our auditor's report on the finance statement. Second paragraph down does provide our opinion. It states that we believe the finance statement report the finance position and the results of operations of the organization in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And it's fairly stated in all material respects. This is essentially what we call an unmodified, a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance you can get out of finance statement audit. Basis of the opinion, we did audit these finance statements in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. We are independent to the organization, and we believe that the information gathered as part of our audit is sufficient to support our opinion. Responsibilities management section, similar to the IDA, management is responsible for the financial statements, the selection of accounting policies, as well as developing a system of internal controls that allows them to prepare financial statements. Our responsibility with ours is to plan and perform our audit that provides reasonable assurance that financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The bottom, page 2, just highlighting the management discussion analysis has been omitted. That does not impact our opinion on the financial statements. The top of page 3, we did audit the financial statements. We did include some supplementary information that's not part of the basic financial statements. So we did perform some audit procedures on those schedules, and we do believe them to be fairly stated in all material respects in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. Other information, we just report on the fact that we did review your annual reports required under the New York State Public Authority Law, and we did not identify any material consistencies from those reports between those reports and our financial statements, so the information we gathered as part of our audit. And the last section on that refers to our Yellow Book report on government audit standards report. I'll discuss that at the end. Page 4 of the financial statements. This is the statement of net position of the CRC. It shows total assets, total cash of just over $511,000. Total liabilities of just under $4,200, which brings a net position of $507,199. Page 5 provides a statement of revenues, expenses, and change in the net position. So this is the income statement of the organization. It does show total revenue, project fees of about $56,000. Total operating expenses of $120,000, which was a net operating loss year over year of $63,000. Biggest change there, you see year over year, is related to prior year. You did close on the refunding of the RPI bond for CRC, which did create significant project fee revenue. In the current year, you did have the issuance of the RPI bond that actually refunded the one that was previously on the IDA financial statements, which created the current year revenue, which was much better. Page 6, the statement of cash flows, which shows the source of use of cash. Year over year, you can have total project cash inflows of just under 57,000 from project fees. You have cash outflows to vendors of just over $22,000, while the net cash used in the current year of cash of just under 66,000. Page 7 to 9 are the accounting policies organization. As I mentioned before, there were no changes in year over year, and they are considered to be explanatory except for the accounting principle. And then note C, the financial analysis provides some information related party transactions. Probably the biggest one is related to the IDA bond of $10,000 that was issued and then repaid in the current year. Page 10 of the finance statements. This is our report required to issue under the government auditing standards. It communicates our consideration of the internal control of the organization. We do consider your internal control to the extent that allows us to plan our audit procedures, not to the extent that allows us to issue an opinion on its effectiveness. However, we're required to report here any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control we identify through that process. We're happy to report we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that are required to be reported in the government auditing standards. And we do consider organizations' compliance with laws and regulations have a direct material impact on the financial statements, and we would report here any non-compliance with those laws and regulations. We're happy to report that we did not identify any non-compliance that's reportable on the government auditing standards. And last section on page 12. The summary of indebtedness of the organization. So this shows the total of all bonds that are issued to the organization, for all the RPI. It shows you the activity during the current year. We did audit this, and we did, as I mentioned before, we do believe this is fairly stated in relation to finance. So that was a quick summary. Are there any questions?
Any questions on the report from the members? You have a motion to accept?
Make the motion.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I'll make a motion to close the CRC audit meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting closed. Now we're gonna open the IDA again and go into the public hearing, all right?
Yes. The IDA. Is there an IDA regular meeting there?
Right here?
There's one. I got it. You need one?
No, I got it. I'm just showing you mine in case you see what it looks like.
Okay.
Good. Okay, we'll open up the IDA meeting today. We'll start with the public hearing for the Lion Factory. And who will be presenting that?
Usually read that?
Sure, yeah, the IDA is conducting a public hearing in connection with an application received from Lion Factory Building LLC. The project, quickly summarized, involves the redevelopment of 750 Second Avenue in the city of Troy, which is in Lansingburg. The project involves a 1.69 acre parcel of real property with approximately 246,000 square feet of building space. The project involves redeveloping that facility into 151 units of affordable residential apartments with approximately 8,800 square feet of commercial space to be redeveloped on the first floor of the facility. The applicant has applied to the IDA for financial assistance in the form of sales and use tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax exemptions, and partial real property tax abatement through a pilot agreement. The pilot agreement and financial assistance summaries are included in your packet in the form of a cost-benefit analysis. The purpose of the public hearing today is to discuss any questions with respect to the project and the financial assistance that's proposed by the IDA. I think we have members of the project team on the call with us today. And I'll defer to Steve and the project team to guide any questions that the board might have.
So I guess the public hearing's called to order. So are there any members of the public?
Any members of the public that would like to speak?
I couldn't download the pilot highlights, so
Yeah, you can give him that one.
Great, thank you.
For Jill.
Someone else need one? Any members of the public ever like to speak?
I guess that closes the public, that would be, we close the public hearing now?
Sure, unless there's any comments on Zoom or if the board has any questions.
Would there be any questions from anybody that is, over the internet on Zoom? On the public hearing on the Lion Factory? I don't see any hands up.
No.
I would also like to note that Councilwoman Sue Steele is at the meeting and, a future member of the, IDA and CRC board. Good to have you on, Sue.
Thank you. Thanks. I won't show you my real picture. We'll stay with this one, but looking forward to meeting you all in person. Thank you.
Great, Sue. Okay, so I guess we could take a motion to close the public meeting,
Hearing, yep.
the public hearing.
Make the motion.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is closed, and we'll go to the, IDA.
Okay,
We have to accept.
oh, well, we have, actually, we should have approval of the minutes first, probably, yeah, even though it's listed as 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking for an approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion from February 18th? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, tremendous. Motion is accepted. Okay.
The authorizing number 2.
So, number 2, we're gonna look at the authorizing resolution, the Lion Factory,
Okay, and I'll,
and that will be you.
so I would introduce this again. Justin has explained the details of this, 246,000 square foot building that's largely vacant right now. Most of the space being used is on the ground floor. We previously approved 2 pilots for this project last year, which had a 30-year affordable housing component and a 10-year commercial component. Since that time, the developer was unable to use a large portion of residential apartments that were in the basement because of the floodplain conditions, so they've moved them up to the main level, which is up above the street by 10 steps or whatever. What that's done is it significantly reduced the amount of commercial space available by, less than a third of what was there before. So we've taken both pilots and married them into one 30-year pilot. And basically what you have in front of you here, this is fairly equivalent to what was approved last year as far as the residential pilot. There's less money coming in from the commercial pilot because there's so much less space, and the costs on the project have gone up like $2 million, obviously, over the same time. So again, looking at their income, their debt service coverage, I worked with them to develop this schedule of payments. You have, if you look at so there's an annual pilot payment, which is the first shaded gray column. And to the left of that, there's an unshaded host community payment, that's funding that comes directly to the city outside of the pilot for costs that we have associated with the project, public safety costs, et cetera. And so that comes directly to us. And then the annual without commercial is just so for an analysis purposes, but the column on the right that's shaded total combined annual payments show basically we're generating for the first 2 years the revenue that's coming off that building as is right now. That hasn't changed. The base value hasn't changed, and then it starts increasing up over time until year 30. Again, there's a large number of affordable units in here. There's 40%. There's 27 units at 50%, 84 units at 60%, 18 at 80% of American AMI, and then there's 6 market rate apartments as well. And the commercial space is decreased down to, I think, 8,800 from the 36,000 that was in there before. So are there questions for me or the developer? I'm not sure if the developer wants to add anything to that. Also, I would just add that they are now looking at, in the parking lot in the back, there's a lot of parking there, using geothermal heating for this project as well, which is a
That would be smart.
great addition to the project.
We're good to use them as an example if that happens towards future products.
So,
So
Steve,
what is the,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, this is Larry Regan. I'm the principal of Regan Development. If you'd like, I could go into a couple more details, only if you think it would be prudent about, changes to the project, referencing the geothermal. We did receive a sizable award from New York State Clean Energy Incentive Program to make this an all-electric building. This is their first program that's taking an historic adaptive reuse of a historic structure, of an old type of industrial structure like this that typically didn't allow for the levels of upgrade for clean energy upgrades to, make it a completely green building. We were able to work with New York State Office of Historic Preservation and the National Park Service to make this sort of a guinea pig project in New York State to do the geothermal, to provide a thermal envelope with much higher levels of insulation on the interior walls, to the windows, to the now to the basement level, that we won't be using anything in the ground level for any type of residential, commercial, common spaces, common rooms, utility rooms. That'll all not be used, and that'll be upgraded with the thermal envelope on the lowest level of the building, in the basement level. So we're very proud to sort of work with New York State to make this an example of how older historic adaptive reuse buildings can be energy efficient. And we're very proud that this will cut each tenant's utility bill for almost 40% of what they would be currently paying if this project did not use this funding source. So that, combined with another change to the project, HCR and the state has pushed us, and we're going to be providing free broadband to all tenants, which is a great marketing plus for the project. But it also goes with the governor and the state legislature's sort of push to do universal broadband. And this project will be on the cutting edge of that, and it'll pretty much be the first generation of projects going forward that will provide universal broadband for free for each tenant, saving them $35 to $45 a month of basic broadband service to their apartments, over $400 to $500 a month. So we're proud of that as well. And just to sort of sum up, nothing on the residential side has changed. It's the same tax pilot, basically payments to the city that this board approved last year, dollar for dollar. Our unit count has not changed. Our unit mix has not changed at all. And it's the same dollar amount coming to the city in the residential pilot. And as Steve has pointed out, it's just that our commercial space had to shrink drastically because originally we did not understand, when we took over the project with the existing owners, that there was the lowest level of the basement for a foot or two at the lowest level of the basement is within the 100-year floodplain. And of course, we can't build or put anything in that floodplain, especially with state financing. So the first floor, where we're moving everything up to, is well above that level of the floodplain, and we can safely finance and develop the project, just not in that ground level. And that's why all of that commercial space shrunk. And then the commercial space we're seeking to add into the residential pilot that shrunk down to about 8,800 square feet. It's sort of back space. It's not prime retail at all. It's not prime commercial at all. You have to go up steps or up a ramp to reach it. It's accessed primarily through the back of the building. And we're lucky to have the existing owners that want to stay as our tenants, to stay in the community, as they've evidenced at the community meetings, They want to stay there, put their showroom there. The rest of the building is completely vacant. It's been that way for almost 2 years. The roof is leaking. And I'm sad to say that the project is in tax rem for, foreclosure with the city. And we are planning to close the project in June with the New York State HCR and with our other funding sources. We will be providing the funds to the owner so that they're able to pay every penny of back taxes and interest. So there'll be no loss in revenue to the city. And we're going to take this from a basically vacant eyesore at this point, which is sort of degrading every day because they're not able to maintain it, and turn it back into something that can be a shining example of energy efficiency, community redevelopment, along with all of the economic revitalization and that'll add to the plans that your city has done along that 2nd Avenue corridor running up in Lansingburg. So we're proud to be tools for community redevelopment. We're proud to work with the city, and we are going to closing in June. We have a April 14th board meeting with HFA to approve this, where they do need to see this pilot approved from your body if you're so willing to do so. And I'm here to answer any questions, but we're really, really excited, and we really think this is a winner, and we're happy to be there to help the Lansingburg section revive its economic and community revitalization for the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. Any questions for Larry?
Yeah, what's your,
Go ahead.
sorry. What's your developer fee?
So the developer fee after the pledge, I think it's about 8 or 9% of the total development cost. And when you look at that as a internal rate of return for the monies we're investing in the project, it's in line with what we had mentioned to you previously. I remember answering the same question back in 21. Nothing has changed. It's the same, and it's within line of what the HCR allows us in fees, and it's a commensurate fee that represents the risk that we're putting in our own money and guarantees over the next 2 to 2.5 years to build this project, to rent it and place it in service, and we feel that it's a fair amount, and we're willing to do it for that amount.
Nothing good, no more questions.
Yeah, are you taking a consulting fee
No.
also?
No consulting fees.
And what did the property appraise at, the completed
So,
project?
We're paying the existing owners. The property itself is one parcel, and then there are a number of parcels that have been purchased and will be going to purchase at the June closing along 3rd Avenue that the existing owners are in contract for. So we purchased everything together. There's about 5 properties that are both vacant and along 3rd Avenue in the rear portion that the planning board approved for redevelopment. And we're paying about $3.2 million for the total site. And out of that, over $308,000 comes back to the city to pay off the arrears in taxes plus the interest.
Okay, so what did it appraise at? What's the completed project? What's the appraised value going to be?
If you give me 1 minute, I think the appraised value of the project in total. Bob, do you have that? I know the appraisal came in. I know, Bob, you're on mute. I have Bob Taylor, who is our financial advisor, on with us. If you give me a minute, I can grab the appraisal from my other room, sir. Would you like me to do that?
You hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I'm looking up the appraisal.
And while he's doing that, I'll just add, this puts a lot of feet on the street in support of some other projects that we have, the historic district creation just south of here that will provide 50% tax credits to investors to fix up their properties south of here. So we're hoping that puts some revitalization on the commercial corridor, especially along Second Avenue. As well as the city has adopted a pilot for 1 to 4 units. So people that invest in their property, instead of the taxes just going up immediately, which disincentivizes people from developing, they can invest in their property, improve them, and then the tax increase, which you probably would not see otherwise, will phase in over 15 years. Lansingburg School District has adopted that, so the school district taxes are eligible, the city taxes are eligible, and the county, we're hoping they will approve that in the coming weeks, as well as the city school district will be voting on that, but doesn't apply to this area, by mid-April. So I'm just gonna say, this really helps incentivize redevelopment in the Lansingburg area.
Is there a plan for that price chopper, that old price chopper?
Not yet. We're still continue to work with them. I've had some discussions, but not currently yet. Nothing to the planning commission.
The city's providing that pilot you're talking about, the 1 to 4 unit.
The 1 to 4 unit is, the state approved it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's, the city is automatically in,
Okay.
and then the other 3 tax districts have to opt in. Lansingburg is the only one that has yet, but I know the Greater City of Troy School District will mid-April. And the county, if they don't adopt it, I mean, it's a smaller portion, but I'm hoping,
Okay.
the indications are they will.
Albert, are you good?
We're getting the appraised value.
Bob, did you
I have
get?
a question.
The appraised value from an appraisal dated exactly 1 year ago, is, $9,529,000, as completed and stabilized. That means rented up and running in good order.
How long do you think it'll take you to stabilize it?
15 months. $18 months to build it, 15 months to stabilize it.
Albert, anything else?
No.
Yeah, Latasha?
What is the total amount owed in REM right now for
So,
the taxes?
look, I believe the amount is about 250,000, and I think there was about 47,000 in penalties. I have that information. Hold on one sec. And please note, this has nothing to do with us. We've been paying carry to the sellers, so we're not in title, nor we're just in contract. The current outstanding amount is $239,453.15 of principal. Interest is $69,789 for a total due to the city through March 31 of $309,262.65. This was included in your packet. We want to be clear that, we've been working closely with the city, with Steve and Justin, and with the city, our attorney, who's on the call today, Dan Chauvin, has been working directly with the city attorney so that everyone understands that when June comes and this closing comes, the city will receive these funds, and the taxes will go back to current for the period until the pilot goes into effect. And that we'll be paying those taxes after we take title in June.
Josh, any other questions?
Is this closing delayed right now because of the NREM issue?
No, it's not, because
Closing is a function of HFA's annual closing process and their bond issuances largely, and Larry can speak to that, but I think the June closing target is a function of their annual bond issuance. Is that correct?
that's correct. They do 4 issuances a year. They do one in March, June, September, and December. So we've been very fortunate that the state considers this project a priority. It's a large project. The state committed incredible amounts of funding for the project. They love the fact that it's in the Clean Energy Incentive Program, and they want it to be the example for them of going forward of how historic adaptive reuse buildings and adaptive reuse buildings can be used with the Clean Energy Program, with the geothermal, to save tenants substantial amounts on their electric bills.
Is the property full of asbestos?
No, the property, we've done thorough reports on this. As you are aware, the state goes through a detailed underwriting. Our investors go through a detailed review of the building structures and hazardous material reports. There's very little asbestos in the building. It's no more than we typically see in, pipe wrap, but nothing in the floors or the walls that would cause serious issues going forward. So it's a pretty good old building with decent bones. The roof is shot. We're hoping to get in there as quickly as possible. We've done some repairs on behalf of the owners getting it to this point because they just don't have the money to maintain the building anymore because it's such a large building. Between the tax burden and the maintenance, they're floundering. And, we're happy to sort of come in as, just to come in and help get this back on its feet. And as I said, put it back. And as Steve said, make it a spot for revitalization to continue up 2nd Avenue, south to north with the city's plan to revitalize Lansingburg.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we have 2 members of Lansingburg School District School Board here. I wonder if you could speak a little bit, Larry, about the impact to the school district?
So most of these, most of these units are 1 bedrooms and smaller 2 bedrooms. We don't think the impact is going to be very large at all. I think there was a report going back. Steve, do you remember we discussed this when the board approved the residential pilot in last year? I just don't recall. There was data that I think you mentioned, but I don't recall.
I don't recall. Are there 3-bedroom units here, or?
There's only a couple 3-bedrooms. So, just to round it out. I think, Bob, how many are there? There's 4 or?
There are 3 3-bedroom units.
So we kept we wanted a
2-bedroom unit. Yeah. 115 1-bedroom.
Deanna had a question.
Okay,
It workforce housing, low income.
Well, it's affordable housing.
yeah, affordable housing.
Some market, 8 market rate units in a caretaker unit, and a number of units, 18 that are 80% of AMI and above. 25, 1/6 of the units. Market-ish. Market or market.
Any other questions?
Just one more. As far as property management, you handle that on your own, right?
Yes. So I think you were on the site tour when we went as a group to our site in Cohoes. Am I mistaken, or I think you were there, correct?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
So we all went, and the board and the members toured our property about 1.5 to 2 miles away in Cohoes. And I think you met our property managers, our regional manager, so this property will have a full-time live-in super, a porter, helper to that super, as well as a full-time, property manager. And then we're happy to say that we have other properties within a couple miles of this, not only the Cohoes property, but Albany properties that, you know, can share managers in a pinch if there's issues or if there's emergencies. There's a sharing of management, employee, staff, which, you know, will make sure that, you know, everything is always covered on any of the properties. So yes, we do our management with our team.
Any other questions? Are they allowed to ask you a question?
I don't see why not.
Anybody from the public like to ask a question?
No, and I thank Sue for, opening up. Because the scope and size that we're being asked to. It sounds like a huge impact. That answer, which is.
Thank you, and I'd just like to address that while it appears you're taking less, not really, this is a development that's not going to occur otherwise, so you would still be at the base value without this pilot.
Yes, we're
Right.
getting a continuation.
At the low value, and the building's gonna deteriorate, so.
We'll get a big bump and we'll change an eyesore into a usable piece of property. Okay, thanks. We
So
don't.
now it's a motion to approve the pilot.
Okay. Take a motion to approve the pilot.
Resolutions in your packet as well, the project authorizing resolution. Chairman's looking for a motion, I think.
I am Bill.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Albert makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hands, please. I just.
Opposed?
2, 3,
One opposed.
one opposed. Okay. Motion passes.
So passes 5-1.
Okay. Thank you very much, Larry. Appreciate your time on the phone.
Thank you very much to everybody, to Steve, Justin, and the board members. We won't let you down. We're excited to get going, and we thank you for your support, and we'll keep you informed as we proceed. Sue, we look forward to meeting with you and happy to do that at your convenience.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Good job. Now we're going to annual meeting resolutions.
Yes. Okay, so you have in your package an annual meeting resolution. We do this each year. It basically affirms our compliance, that we've reviewed our mission statement and performance measures, our compliance with the Authority Budget Act. Section 2 has reviewed the investment disposition and property policies, which I've reviewed. So we've reviewed. 3, Authority has reviewed the audit, which the Audit and Finance Committee approved previously. Annual election of officers, and I would like to propose basically that stays mostly the same with Justin NATO as chair, adding in, unless anybody else wants it, Mr. Gully as vice chair, Councilman Gully. Yep. Albert Watson as treasurer, and Sue Farrell continues as secretary. The Audit and Finance Committee, Section 5, is a committee of the whole. Keeping the Governance Committee as a 3-member committee with Mr. Watson, Ms. Farrell, and Ms. Fitch. Appointment of staff, and that remains the same with me as executive director, Danae Ziegler as acting secretary, Dylan Turek as director of economic development, and Andrew Kreshik as our project manager. That we approve the annual report, which was sent to you. And again, that's something we get last minute on a lot of that, but it details our compliance with other ABO requirements and lists the pilots, and now the governance committee will review that report, because the information is still just coming in, was coming in until March 31st. So now we're approving it, and then we'll review it and see if we can take any actions on that. And budget, for section 9 approves the budget. And that kind of covers it more or less. And then, so that would be what the resolution is. So I guess for the IDA, I'd like to have a motion to approve the annual meeting resolution.
Do I have a motion to approve the annual meeting resolution? I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're good. 6 up. Okay, we're working into the executive director's report.
Okay, a number of things. On the great news is that we have closed and received our funding back from 701 River Street. If you remember, we put $250,000 into project expenses, and we also were owed funding for the lease as well. So on the closing, we received a check for $400,000. So that puts us back on more stable footing. So there's that. On Monument Square, the Planning Commission has started the review process and has declared their intent to act as lead agency. The IDA and the Local Development Corporation are named as involved agencies, just because they have either a potential pilot or some other involvement in there. So I'm just informing you that it's basically the Planning Commission is the lead agency, and we've been asked if we have any objection to that. It's my intent to just respond that we don't have any objection. Do I need to vote on that really, or?
It's just administrative, that the planning commission's taking lead. We're going along the ride for now.
Right. And City Station is delayed again. We will not close in April. Obviously, there's construction cost issues that everybody's seeing right now. And for the New York Geo Conference in April, we've already approved sending 2 of us to that. I'm going to add 1 more person, our project manager, Andrew Kreshik, to that. And I believe that's it for my executive director's report. That covers for me old and new business, unless there's any other old business out there that people, or new business.
Any questions from the board? Acceptance for that?
I don't think we have, no. Just informing everybody.
Yeah, we don't need to vote. Okay, great. Old business? Move on to old business?
I have no old business.
Anybody else, board member? On the new business?
Nothing.
Financials? Report of financials?
What are you going to tell us? At this meeting?
About our financial position.
This will be Mary Ellen's last presentation to us on the financial position. Matt will be taking that over next month. You gonna be here next month?
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Please?
You don't want to just
No, she's staying with him, but she's
throw them in
different.
there and leave them alone, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first report is the statement of financial position. And as of February 28th, our total assets are $503,394.98 with $128,306.94 in cash. We have $210,195.12 in liabilities, so our fund balance is $200,199.86. The most significant change to the statement of financial position is in our receivable number. And attached to financials, there is a schedule to explain what that number is. And in short, it is pilots that are not yet paid.
Page 3 of 3?
Yep.
They're all in arrears, is what you're saying?
Are they all in arrears, sir?
So there were 4 of them that were paid in March, the rest are still outstanding,
When were they due?
February.
Are they all billed out with an additional invoice for 5% penalty?
Yep, and additional point out today as well.
All right. The 701 River caught up when we closed that transaction.
Yep.
Which is good, so that one drops off the list.
The ones that are 2920, that is. Factory is paid, and Hudson Art House.
So this Vecino Bond Group is still outstanding?
For the, 444 River loss, yes.
And Hudson Art House?
Hudson Art House has paid.
Okay. On the Wojcicki invoice, is that for all of the entities or just the IDA?
Just the,
Where are they billing the other entities, the same amount or is that net?
it's very.
CRC is less,
CRC is less.
LDC is about the same, I think, right?
Yeah.
7,500 fall in line with their engagement?
Yeah.
But that's, okay.
Can you tell me, can you say which ones, the receivables, which ones have been paid? Can you say that again?
So the third one down,
Okay, 29, okay,
right? The 701 River, 2 more down,
okay.
Cookie Factory,
Yeah.
and what was the other one that?
Hudson Art House.
Hudson Art House.
Yep.
So what's 599 River Street Limited Partnership?
Gotta be First Columbia, isn't it? Oh, right, yeah, because we're at 433. I'm sorry, yeah, that would be Community Builders, or, right. Usual. Yeah, I saw her the other day, I should've, if I, that, and 16 First Street, that is not uncommon. They have an issue with their management firm being late. So we will check on that one, but they pay. 444 River loss is also unusual, so we'll check on those.
They have a deferral on their conversion of permanent going on, if you recall. I think that was 444, so
Okay.
probably want to stay on top of that one.
The next report is the statement of activity, and for the month of February, we have a deficit of $4,500. Most significant source of revenue are the admin fees and application fees. And the most significant expense in accounting are our audit.
Any questions from the board? Motion to accept?
Make a motion.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
The good news on the statement of position in terms of cash, that's gonna change dramatically with the 701 River closing that occurred a couple weeks ago. $400,000 coming in on that one, and, if, the project that we just discussed, Lion, Factory, does close in June, that's another $400,000 in administrative fee that'll be collected as well, so. Position by, July will be around $1 million.
Catch us up a little bit after a year of inactivity.
Okay.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. on that?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting is adjourned. Now we're going to the CRC. Motion to approve the minutes from February 18th. I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Annual meeting resolution, election of officers, review of procedure, audit and control, is that you, Steve? Is that same?
Yes, so that's basically the same thing I walked through for the IDA, like to propose the same, officers and the same city staff. Obviously the CRC report to the Authority Budget Office is a lot less significant. All it, we don't have to review all of the pilots outstanding, it's really just the RPI bonds that are out there. The grants we've made. So that's what's in the report that was distributed to you.
Any questions or comments? Motion to accept? I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm good. accepted. Okay, Executive Director's Report.
Okay, two things here, I guess, well, I'll cover one under new business. There is a NIP payment being made for last year for $4,334.92 to the city. Just so everybody's aware, we had made a $10,000 commitment, and there wasn't not a lot of projects that happened last year.
Last year was a tough year. I mean, we had a lot of groups that were nervous about being in public and being in groups, and, you know, I mean, we just didn't get the response that we wanted, and we had a few projects that came in that just needed to be tweaked, that will come back this year, that just need to be modified because they weren't within the structure of the NIP program. But we, you know, as a council, we're pushing all of our residents that we serve to, you know, focus on this program. And this program has been wonderful for our city in two aspects. Not only does it make it look better in some tough spots, but it's really engaging people to come together. And I think it's an important piece of what we do here is to keep that public getting engaged and being part of the process of working in Troy to keep it a better place and a cleaner place. So I appreciate, as part of the NIP committee, I appreciate the fact that you've supported us each year, and I hope that will continue as we all work to make Troy a better place.
You ever get a copy of the list of the projects that were submitted but not completed? I know we had talked about it, so we didn't receive it.
Yeah, we can get that to you. I don't have it off the top of my head, and I couldn't explain it if I wanted to, but I can get you a list, and so we can go over it. There's a few projects. Most of the hiccup we have with projects is that people were looking for equipment, which we do not finance equipment to do the work, you know, and just small modifications. And, you know, one person asking for a generator and pieces of puzzle that we really couldn't, within the realm of the NIP, we couldn't really supply in that project. So they're going to come back with those readjusted this year. But if you look at the spots that get the list, if you look at the spots they hit some really critical areas in our city that really need that bond, need that little help, you know. So, but I will get you that list. I'll see if I can get that mailed to you today. We don't have the director's report?
No, you can just go right into financials.
Financials?
The first report is the statement of financial position. And as of February 28th, our total assets are $490,541.92. All of it in cash. We have $4,200 in liability, so our fund balance is $486,341.92. Again, let me see. So the most significant change to the statement of financial position is in the vehicle number. The audit date. Okay, so the next report is the statement of activity. For the month of February, we have a deficit of $5,635.42. There are no significant sources of income, and the most significant expense is the auditing fee.
Any questions on the report? Motion to accept?
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay, motion carries. Great. Okay, new business.
Yes, I have new business, that's a combination new business and old business. You have an authorizing resolution. I believe I emailed yesterday, but if anybody wants another copy of it, here it is. Oh, actually, let me have one back. Okay. If you remember, last year in 2021, I asked for to create a project, a Riverwalk project and we funded it with $50,000. The pressing issue was to do core drilling behind the hotel next year so that we could move on to the construction documents for the Riverwalk. We also had in there a $15,000 commitment to a Congress Street Bridge study that we're going to do with CDTA, which is not going to happen now. Subsequent to that, we did the Alta Planning First Avenue grant, and I had committed to the city to contribute 28,000, that's another exact number, 28,250 towards a $129,000 project, which is again that Riverwalk behind the hotel. And so that's to do the construction documents. I had committed to that. I did not bring that before the board. I committed to the city and said I would bring it before the board and did not bring it before the board. So what I'd like to do is subtract out the $15,000, add that in, and also when we discussed the Alta planning, we did a phase 1, then we did a phase 2, and then we added $5,000 to it. I was in my mind, only took the first one out of that fund. So basically what happens is we're short $20,000, 750 out of that 50. So I'd like to increase the project. I'd like to increase the project to 70,750 and then remove the $15,000 grant to CDTA, memorialize what was already approved in this resolution to Alta Planning, and then authorize the payment, the grant to the city for that contribution toward the $129,000 project. Apologize for not bringing that to the board when I should have last summer. I thought I had.
Questions? No questions from the board? Motion to accept? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
501. Okay. Anything else on the new business?
Nothing.
Okay. Old business?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.
Are we off today?
You're here.
And